Hi, this is Jerry with Subaru XV Crosstrek Central. Today's video is going to be a review and installation of the Gorilla mud flap kit for the Crosstrek. Now, as you can see here, the kit contains 2 front mud flaps and 2 rear mud flaps, and the installation hardware for both the front and rear, a set of instructions with some pictures. The instructions look to be not too bad, and some stickers for the mud flaps. You probably noticed that mine have some stickers already on them, all-wheel drive stickers. I got those from eBay and already applied them to the rear mud flaps. That's what I'm going to have on mine. These Gorilla stickers are black, and you can see, I don't know how well they would show up on the black. It might be a little bit different color, so it'd be pretty subtle if you put those on. The other thing is, these are pretty thick material. I'd say a little bit thicker than 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16. They're pretty substantial. I would imagine they're not going to flop around on the car too much while you're driving. So I'm excited to get these installed and get a little bit more protection on my Crosstrek. So let's get out and get going on this. Here we are, getting ready to install the front mud flaps. One thing I want to notice is these clip nuts. If you notice, it's kind of hard to tell now, but the smaller clip nuts, we're going to be using a couple of those, and one of the larger clip nuts, or actually 3 of the smaller ones, one of the larger ones. Well, the hole in the larger one is actually a little bit big for the screws, and they will strip through it and not tighten real securely. There's just one of the large ones used on the bottom. You'll see that. So what I did is I took a punch and I punched it on this side of the nut right here using a punch and a hammer, and just tapped it down to close up that opening a little bit so that the whole diameter actually got a little bit smaller, rather than go try to find some nuts that were the right size. So if you do that, it'll make the hole pretty close. These holes probably look pretty close to the same size now, but this, on the large clip, it was noticeably bigger on before I did that. So just so you can tighten it down, give it a good tighten down, you need to do that. Otherwise the screw will just, tighten, kind of strip right through it. So the first thing we're going to be doing here is removing 3 inside. What I've done is turn the wheel all the way in to give me some room. So you're going to be removing 3 of these little plastic clip retainers. You just turn them with a Phillips head screwdriver, and they pop right out. And the instructions say that there's 2 on the bottom, but there's actually only 1 on the bottom. There's 2 on the bottom if you have the factory mud guards, which I don't on this car. And so the one on the bottom, it's the same kind of clip. Let's look underneath, and it is right here. See if I can turn it with one hand. And I might have to adjust the camera a little bit. You kind of have to hold the side of the clip a little bit to stop it from spinning while you turn it with the screwdriver. There, and then it just pops right out. So that's the first thing. So now that I've got the factory retainers removed, I'm going to pull back this fender liner, and at these top 2 holes, I'm going to put on a couple clips. These clip nuts, just slide them right over the body. Line up the holes. There's 1. These are the smaller ones. So there's 1 longer one and 3 smaller ones. I'm going to put shorter ones. I'm going to put 2 of the shorter ones on these factory on the body panel right here. Line up with the holes like that. So the remaining clip nut is going to go on this small L bracket that comes with the kit. It's just going to slide over that. Kind of work it on there. There we go. There. A little bit tough to get on there. That goes on there like that. And then the long clip So this is the long clip. That's the one that I closed the hole up on a little bit. It is going to go down on right behind this fender liner. We are going to slide it. Let's see if I can pull this away to get a good view. We are going to slide it so that the nut part is on top, and it's going to go on the body panel and center itself over that hole right there. Okay, so all the clip nuts are in place. I'm going to slide this fender panel back inside there, and then this L bracket is going to slide between the fender bracket, or the inner fender liner, and this bottom piece of plastic, and that hole needs to line up underneath with that clip nut that I put on, so all the holes line up straight through there. And I'll have to go underneath and look up through that hole to line it, but it'll end up being right about there. Should be the right place. So looking underneath, I can see that I've got that L bracket lined up. The hole is lined up right there with the hole through the bottom plastic panel, and I'm ready to bolt that, to put a screw in that with the washer. Alright, so I have one of my 1-inch stainless machine screws, and they call this a small washer. It's actually too big for the screw, but that's what they give you. I'm sure it's fine. And that is going to go up through the bottom. It's going to go through the bottom plastic panel, through this L bracket, and then into the nut clip, and it's going to pull everything together. And we'll just tighten that up. I'm not going to fully tighten it until I get everything on the car. So that is pretty snug. So now that I've got that bottom screw in, I'm going to get this plastic panel back behind the lip. So I now have the two clip nuts on the body behind these holes. And I have the L bracket with the clip nut on it here, and the screw is screwed up in through the bottom onto the clip nut on the other side of that L bracket right there behind the body panel. So we're ready to put the mud flap on. On the top, I'm going to use the 1.5-inch screw, the long screw with a thick spacer. And that spacer will go on the back side. I'm just going to thread that into that top nut. You know, before I do this all up, I'm going to put this push pin up in the top there. Tighten that down. That's as easy as it goes in. Now on the next screw down, I'm going to use the smaller spacer of the two, and that's going to go behind there. And a 1-inch screw with a big washer. And then we just have the bottom. And this one will pierce, because that clip nut L bracket is so close to this plastic liner, it will just pierce that when it goes in. That's fine. Now I'm going to kind of push this in and locate it. I want it all the way in on my car. Get my big screwdriver and torque these down a little bit better. And then I'm going to tighten up this bottom screw a little bit. Back underneath the mud flap. And that is tight. So that's it. That's all there is to do on one side. Looks good. Now I just have to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll go to the back. So now for the back mud flap, I've taken the wheel off. jack the car up and taking the wheel off, and what you're looking at now is the back side of the fender well, and I don't have the factory mud guards, so I didn't have to remove those. So there's just one pin here to remove. That comes out, and then there is a plastic insert which is going to go in that hole, and a screw is going to go in there and spread that out. And then we will have a clip nut that will go over this outside hole. That'll be one of the mounting holes right there. And then we're gonna have to drill a hole down here for the third mounting hole. So there's 3 holes, and to drill that hole, I am gonna mark it, hold the mud flap up, and try to get an eyeball on where these holes line up. And it looks like I'm gonna want it right about there. So, and that's about where it shows in the instructions to drill a hole, but it says to hold that mud flap up and mark it. So I have my 1/4-inch drill bit. I'm just gonna drill a hole in the plastic right here. There we go. And then another one of these clip nuts is gonna fit over that part of the fender. Spread this out a little bit. There's a piece right behind that, so it's a little bit tricky to get in there. Might have to pull that out with a screwdriver to get that back behind there. My pin came out. That hole doesn't line up perfectly, but that's okay. That screw will just screw right into that. Put my pin back up in the top. And now we just have to mount the flap. So there's going to be a spacer between this top hole and the mud flap, kind of like what we had on the front. So we will take the longest screw and put a big black washer on it. It's going to go through the mud flap and through the spacer and then into that plastic insert. We'll start that in finger tight. Okay, now we're going to take a 1-inch stainless screw and a big washer, and we're going to put it through this one, and then do the same thing on the bottom. Hopefully that'll line up pretty close. There we go. And I'm going to eyeball this before I tighten it up real good. Alright, so I've sort of eyeballed this from the rear to see where I want the flap straight up and down. And it turns out that pushing it all the way in works. So now I'm going to see if I can tighten up these screws. Well, that plastic insert worked better than I thought it would. I don't want to tighten it too much. I don't think it could take a whole lot. I think that's about as size I'm going to go. And then I'm going to get these outer ones really nice and snug. That's pretty good, I think. So let's see what it looks like from the back. Perfect. I like it. I'll put the tire back on and see how it looks.